Hey everyone, this is Casey with Aligned Astrology, and today we're going to talk about the new moon in Gemini. We're going to go on the intuitive fly today and allow Mercury to express itself as Mercury is in its domicile in Gemini with this new moon. So we'll talk a lot about how that's working for each of the 12 zodiac signs, and we'll sprinkle a little bit of insight in with Saturn that has just moved into Aries, and it'll be here for 2.5 years, just giving us some very interesting things to experience in our own particular lives. So I'm going to pull up the chart and we'll take a look at these individual rising signs. Now, as a traditional Hellenistic astrologer, I always invite you all to listen to your rising sign, because the rising sign determines where all of the planets in the zodiac sign land. In your zodiac chart, this is the sign, the rising sign, that determines where each and every planet lands in your chart. So you can listen to your sun sign or your moon sign, and if that resonates for you, great, but that's not how we read horoscopes. So as we move through these zodiac signs, notice what comes up for you. Notice which signs resonate, because they all have potential to resonate based on where these planets may live in our own particular natal charts. And if you're very interested in understanding more about that, you can always book a reading with me at align-astrology.com. But let's start with Aries risings. Aries risings are experiencing the new moon in Gemini in the third house. The third house is correlated with our day-to-day experiences. It can also be correlated with the people we see on a daily basis, our siblings. And having a new moon in the third house is like a transformation or a new beginning around your day-to-day experiences. Since we have Mercury moving through the third house, coming into a combustion, and when a planet is within 8 degrees of the sun, it is considered to be combust, which means it's burning up. It's going through a death rebirth process with the sun. But in this case, because Mercury is in its own home, it's in its domicile in Gemini, it is under the protection of its own domicile. It is not necessarily going through the turmoil or the tribulations that any planet will be going through while it's combust the sun. But when that Mercury comes into a conjunction within 15 degrees of the sun, not 15 degrees, but let's say 15 minutes of the sun in the same degree, it will be considered to be cazimi, which is a very powerful, prominent expression for any planet in cazimi to the sun. It's like being revived and refreshed and put on stage for it to express itself in a very robust manner. When that happens on Friday, May 30th, notice what comes up for you in your own Gemini house. But as for Aries risings, this could be a prominent point in a transformation in day-to-day living. It's also important to notice that when the moon is in the third house, it is considered to be in its planetary joy. So you could be coming into connection with people, having new conversations, building new relationships that can open the door for you to see yourself in a way that is new, is opening, creating an opportunity for you to share yourself through communication, through insights of the mind with people around you. And just to speak a little bit about Saturn in the first house in Aries, Saturn is considered to be in its fall in Aries. So when we think about that, when we think about the essential dignities in astrology, where these planets land, sometimes people think good and bad in astrology is a thing. But when we think about the positive planets or the benefic planets, there are only two in astrology, which are Jupiter and Venus. All of the other planets outside of Mercury are considered malefic planets, which mean challenging planets that help us to grow. So when Saturn in Aries, it it gives us the opportunity to experience our lives through just deciding to take action. Now, Saturn doesn't like to be in Aries because Aries is a trailblazer. Aries just likes to take action without thinking. And Saturn, the planet of maturity, also the planet of endings and death, the planet that likes to slow things down and to reflect and think and go over things before making a decision, doesn't have the option like that in Aries. It takes on the characteristics of Aries. So it may be time to grow up fast or learn to express in a way that seems or feels more mature in this case on your daily basis. So all these things can go hand in hand, especially when we have a sextile aspect from Saturn to Mercury moving through the first house, connecting with the third house. So for our Aries risings, this is just the beginning of this experience. So notice what comes up. Feel free to leave a comment so you can share about your own experience. We're going to move the chart forward and we're going to check out our Taurus risings. Taurus risings are going to experience the new moon in Gemini in the second house, which is correlated with our assets, correlated with our skills, talents, and abilities, the things that may be connected to us but aren't necessarily ourselves. Having Mercury in the second house, which is the ruler of Gemini, can show that how we're communicating, the things that we may be wanting to share with the world are directly connected to our skills, our talents, and abilities, maybe our financial well-being. It's a new beginning, a time to go inward with the self and understand what you need to understand about yourself and what you want to share, what you want to create in this time. Just to speak a little bit about Saturn in the 12th house, Saturn is considered to be in its planetary joy in the 12th house. So Saturn in the 12th house rules over the occult, like the hidden knowledge, or we can also talk about the 12th house as a place of exile, the place where you may go to be alone, but it is also considered our subconscious mind. So there can be a lot coming into awareness for Taurus risings over the next 2.5 years in regards to how you see yourself, what you believe in, how do you want to share yourself on a public scale. And with that Saturn coming into conjunction with Neptune, it may be uh, a very strikingly new way of expression that you may not have known yourself to ever be before. When we think about that Mercury moving forward to come into that Kazemi in the second house of skills, talents, and abilities, it can bring to light the things that you may have been working on. The way that you choose to communicate can become a little bit different and turn into the way that you really enjoy and prefer to communicate, especially when Mercury moves forward and it comes into a trine aspect to Pluto, which is moving through your 10th house of career and public role. So you may just begin to express yourself, and it can become very shocking to yourself and turn over a new leaf in your career and public role, like altering the status quo of things. So notice how these things are operating for you, Taurus risings. Notice what seeds you're going to be planting. For our Gemini risings, we're going to experience this new moon in the first house. So, as a Gemini rising, your chart ruler is Mercury, and Mercury is moving through your first house. So, this can be a new beginning around yourself, a repersonification of how you choose to share yourself with the world, like just how people see you. can be correlated with your identity, it can be correlated with your ego, so many different things. But when we think about Gemini, Gemini is very much so of the mind, very much so of communication. And having a new moon here is a refreshing or a reinvention of the way that you choose to share and communicate. Not to mention that we have Jupiter still moving through the first house. So for the past year, Jupiter has been moving through the first house, bringing a reinvention of your expression, possibly bringing in a lot of relationships as mirrors to help you see yourself in a different way, or finding new career endeavors or transformations around career. And I also want to mention that we have this new moon here in Gemini, and as we move over the next 2 weeks, we'll have a full moon in Sagittarius, and that full moon in Sagittarius is going to be ushering in Jupiter into Cancer, where it's exalted. So for Gemini risings, this refreshment period that you've been going through with Jupiter moving through the first house, as well as having this new moon here for that new beginning, is kind of ushering in that point to where Jupiter moves into Cancer and opens the doors for your skills, talents, and abilities to then flourish. So whatever you've been working on, whatever you've been doing for yourself to transform or change for the better, these things are going to impact your skills, your abilities that you can share with the world, possibly share with your partners as well, or find and connect with people who can in turn help you to be seen in a different way in the public. I just want to speak a little bit about Saturn in the 11th house. That Saturn in Aries is turning over a new leaf for us to just sort of take action towards community and connection with people. Maybe we've been sort of estranged from community connection, and it's something that we may want for ourselves now. So having that Saturn here is kind of bringing uh, a seriousness to our experience, an opportunity for us to just put ourselves out there, regardless of how we may feel, and open the door to what we may really want to experience. And it can come through the connections that we create through our relationships, or through our way of being or what we believe. So notice how this new moon is affecting you and what comes up over these next 2 weeks for your Gemini risings. Maybe leave a comment for us to see. For Cancer risings, we're going to experience this new moon in the 12th house. So as a Cancer rising, the moon is the ruler of your chart. So it's important to always take in consideration what phase the moon is in, notice what's going on in your experience. And as the moon comes in a conjunction with the sun in your 12th house, it can bring a lot of clarity, a lot of light to your subconscious mind. It's always important to take note of what's going on in your dreams during our new moons and full moons. Can be a very clarifying insight for you. I always like to say that our dreams are divine communication. We all may not have complete access to just speak with divinity, but our dreams can be messages. It's like mail from your divine counterpart. Hey, this is what's going on in your experience. You need to understand. So having this stellium of planets moving through the 12th house can bring a lot of insight from our subconscious mind, communication with our divine connection or our own selves, like just bringing to light what we need for ourselves right now, what we want to really experience, what's coming to light for us. When we have Saturn in the 10th house of career and public role, it is bringing a seriousness into our public role, how the world sees us, having that Neptune in conjunction with Saturn can kind of bring about a bit more fantasy like experiences. Saturn, or let's talk about Neptune as a planet of confusion, but in conjunction with Saturn, Saturn likes to ground things down. But let's take into consideration that both of these planets are moving through the sign of Aries that likes to take action. So this conjunction is bringing our fantasies or our divine desires and values into a constructed expression that is kind of brought on by an internal nudge that comes about, and it will be wrapped around possibly the relationships that we're connecting with, the people that we're intimate with. Like it can be our intimate partners or our business relationships. It can also be correlated with some karmic experiences or fated experiences that may be arising in regards to our career and public role that Saturn's bringing into our lives for the next 2.5 years. So notice how these things begin to unfold for Cancer risings. For Leo risings, we will experience this new moon in Gemini in the 11th house of community and good fortune. It's like having a seed planted in your house of good fortune. It brings about a positive community that you can connect with. And having the sign ruler, Mercury, in this 11th house, along with the new moon, can bring great expression to state that we may, as a Leo rising, be connecting with the community and sharing ourselves openly and clearly and freely to kind of shine our light into this community and be accepted by this community. It's a great opportunity to experience how we can share our skills, our talents, and our abilities with these people around us. We may even be able to gain financially or support them in a way that we can be like a teacher to this community that we have cultivated or begin to cultivate, that we may be learning to be more open and share, because sometimes as Leo rising we can be shy and keep our light hidden. So with Mercury in its domicile coming into a Kazemi with the sun, which will be on the 30th, this Friday, notice what communities you're going to be around and don't be afraid to let that light shine, Leo. It's important to notice that this community can be opening the door to a mirror that we may have. When we think about the 7th house of one-on-one relationships, I always like to say that our one-on-one relationships are our mirrors. So having Pluto moving through the 7th house, it's our mirrors, our one-on-one relationships are going to bring to surface the things that we don't necessarily know about ourselves. And when Mercury reaches that trine aspect to Pluto, you may meet somebody, or somebody you already talk to or are deeply connected with will share something about you that you need to see for yourself. So be open to all things to come. Just to speak shortly about Saturn moving through the 9th house of higher learning, it can be correlated with school, it can be correlated with astrology or religion, things along those lines. Also with our connection with the divine or God. When Saturn is moving through this 9th house, we can begin to find a more serious or grounded structure around what it is that we're learning. What are our beliefs, you know? And it's not necessarily something that can be correlated with the mind at this point in time. But since we're having a new moon in Gemini, it is correlated with the mind. It's correlated with our expression. So when that Saturn is making a sextile over to Mercury, it's bringing insight, it's bringing clarity, it's bringing a grounded foundation, a grounded expression and communication around what we believe and what we've learned up to this point in time that we can then share with the people around us. And we must mention shortly before we move on that Mars is still moving through your first house, Leo, which rules that Saturn. So it's going to come from your expression, your identity, your ego, the things that you identify with at this point in time are how you're going to be taking action in this case in regards to what you believe and what you've learned. And it may be for this community that you're connecting with. Move forward over to our Virgo risings. And as a Virgo rising, this new moon in Gemini is occurring in the 10th house. 10th house of career and public role. How the world sees us, what the world sees us for, what we offer to the world to be seen. New moon in Gemini with Mercury in the 10th house in its domicile. Mercury is also our chart ruler, so it's great for us to notice what Mercury is doing and how it's affecting our lives. 10th house, career and public role, doesn't necessarily have to be correlated with our vocation. Maybe we've already lived through our vocation, or maybe we're too young to have a vocation yet. This is how the world sees us. How do we express ourselves? Having a new moon here is a new beginning around our expression, a new beginning of what we want to be seen for. And just to incorporate Saturn into the mix, Saturn is in the 8th house of the esteem of others. So it is all wrapped around how we're being seen by the people connected to us. Saturn in the sign of Aries is grounding down that initial urge to take action into more of a very serious nature. What do we really want to be seen for? What is it that is lighting us up? And what are we going to stick with in the long run? What is that daily consistent expression? Where is our creative ability flourishing right now? What do we want to stay consistent with to be seen for and known for? Just to speak shortly about Pluto moving through the 6th house in a trine aspect with our Mercury. The 6th house is our day-to-day efforts of work. It can be correlated with how we choose to serve people. It may also be correlated with our health. So maybe we've overcome some health endeavors that we can learn from and choose to share with the world through these things. Maybe we can create something in order to benefit the people based off our own lived experiences. So there's many different things that can come from this Virgo rising. Just notice what it is for you. Let's move forward to Libra rising. Libra rising is experiencing our new moon in Gemini in the 9th house. It's correlated with our higher beliefs. The 9th house is also correlated with long distance travel. So maybe we're communicating with people and we're setting up trips to go long distance. Maybe we're moving. When we think about Libra being ruled by Venus, Venus is also moving through the sign of Aries. And the sign of Aries with Venus in it can be correlated with a strong woman. And our 7th house is correlated with our one-on-one relationship. So we may be in a relationship with a strong woman. We may even be preparing to move in with a woman or move somewhere else with a partner or a sister, whatever the case may be. We're connecting in a way that is opening the doors for us to experience something new. Maybe it's changing what we believe in. Maybe it is correlated to something that we've learned about ourselves and we're coming into new values around our life. Just to speak about Saturn in the 7th house, this can show that relationships are getting a bit more serious. And having Saturn in Aries, we may find ourselves rushing into things. And it's important to notice that Saturn doesn't necessarily like to rush into things, so you will have opportunity for communication and thought and clarity and a time of going inward with this new moon in Gemini. With that supportive sextile from Saturn over to Mercury, it's a great opportunity to notice what your partner needs at this point in time. Notice what you need and take into consideration meditation for yourself, to be seated and understand what it is that you really need for yourself so that you can communicate in your one-on-one relationships properly. Libra risings, notice what comes up for you and share in the comments. Let's go to Scorpio risings. Fellow Scorpio risings, happy to have you here. As Scorpio rising, the 8th house is where our new moon in Gemini will be. The 8th house can be seen as the esteem of others, like the esteem of our partner, or the house of karma, karmic debts, regular debts, owing money, things along those lines. So this is a new beginning in the 8th house. It can be letting go of or tying up loose ends, eliminating all of the things in order to move into a new karmic cycle, a new karmic wheel, in this wheel of samsara that we move through as conscious beings. Having Mercury in this place of the 8th house in conjunction with our new moon can speak greatly to a community that we may be connecting to, or even what we're working on consistently in order to be seen in a different way. What actions have we been taking in regards to career, in regards to our daily work and efforts? Just to speak shortly about Saturn moving through the 6th house, where it'll be for the next 2.5 years. The 6th house can be correlated with our daily efforts of work. Once again, our health, the health of our physical body. From time to time, it can be correlated with our mind, the health of our mind. And when we think about Mercury in a sextile aspect to Saturn, this can very much so be correlated to our mind and our expression and communication. And being that it is a malefic in a sextile supportive aspect to Mercury, this can show that it's time for growth, it's time for change, it's time for real communication, real natural expression. No cookie cutter, sugar coating expression anymore, but the raw Scorpio uncut expression may be necessary now for you to be seen truly as you are, and to express yourself in your career, your public role in this manner, being that Scorpio is ruled by Mars, which is currently moving through the 10th house of career and public role. What do you need to be seen for now? Take these things into consideration as this new karmic cycle may begin for you, Scorpio rising. For our Sagittarius risings, this new moon is in the 7th house, the 7th house of one-on-one relationships. And as Sagittarius rising, Jupiter has been moving through your 7th house for the last year. So relationships, one-on-one connections have been quite the story. They've been showing themselves to you. So what's been coming up for the last year, it's important to take these things into consideration, especially with this new moon here. What endings have come up that have created this opportunity for new beginnings? Where is this leading us career-wise, or how the world sees us? Is it a new relationship that's coming in that's going to change how the world sees us? Or is it a relationship leaving that's going to give us a new sense of freedom, of clarity, and expression? All these things are important to take into consideration, especially as our full moon arises, which will be a culmination point through the 1st house, a time of letting go of old ways of being as Jupiter moves into the 8th house in Cancer, the 8th house of our karmic experiences, you know? So what's going on right now? What needs to change? What do we need to let go of for our Sagittarius risings? Let's speak about Saturn in the 5th house of creativity. It can be correlated with children. can be correlated with romance. So it may be something along the lines of our relationship endeavors, especially with Saturn in a sextile aspect to that Mercury. Maybe it's time to let go of something relationship wise. Maybe it's time for a conversation that's going to allow you more freedom to express yourself naturally as you are. Whatever the case may be, honor that for yourself, Sagittarius. Let's move forward. Capricorn risings are experiencing this new moon in Gemini in the sixth house. The sixth house is our day-to-day consistent efforts. Like we chop wood and we carry water. Having Mercury here in this house can be correlated with the communications that we have, the efforts that we move towards in our daily basis. When we think about Capricorn ruled by Saturn, this is our fourth house where Aries lives. So Saturn moving through our fourth house is expressing itself through our home in regards to our family. The fourth house can also be correlated with the father in traditional astrology. So something may be going on with your dad, maybe having conversation about health. It's a great opportunity for you to understand your upbringing, where you've come from. And when we think about that sextile from Saturn to Mercury in this case, like what daily efforts are you taking in order to maybe start something new in regards to your family, or have a hard conversation with a father figure. Think about a new beginning in the sixth house to be a reinvention of your own health as well. Take all these things in consideration for Capricorn risings. For our Aquarius risings, also Saturn ruled, we're experiencing this new moon in the fifth house of creativity. It's all of the creations, right? It can be procreation for your children, recreation, your ways of entertainment, and what you want to do to create, whether it be your arts, your crafts, the things that you like to do. This new moon is bringing about new beginnings in this place where you feeling more comfortable to express and communicate. And it's important to note that this Friday, May 30th, when we have that Mercury Kazemi, it may be an opportunity for you to share your creative endeavors with the people around you publicly, or maybe just with a partner. Notice how these things are going to show themselves for you. I want to speak about Pluto moving through the first house. Pluto moving through the first, coming into a sextile aspect with Mercury in the fifth house, can show that we're seeing ourselves in a new way. Things are coming up the surface in regards to our identity and expression that are going to affect and transform our creativity. If we have children, maybe how we operate and connect with them is going to change. So many different opportunities, so many different experiences with these omens that move through the sky and express themselves into our particular lives. As Aquarius risings, notice how these things come up for you. Notice how the change of your creativity is going to affect the change of your life and your identity. And before we move on, I just want to speak shortly to how Saturn plays its role in that transformation. Saturn moving through the third house of day-to-day experiences and siblings and connections can also show like it's all wrapped around your daily experiences, the people you're connecting with, and things of that nature. So notice how all these things come up. To speak finally about our Pisces rising, last but never least, we have Pisces rising experiencing our new moon in Gemini in the fourth house of home, of family. It can also be considered a place of solitude. But when I think about the sign of Gemini, I don't think about solitude. So in this case, when we think about a new moon in Gemini, as well as having Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, in the fourth house, it can be a communication with family, it can be communication with father, it can be a new beginning around how we choose to communicate and share ourselves in these different relationships, these home familiar relationships that we have. Maybe we've learned something new about our upbringing that we want to talk about and learn more about. And it makes so much sense when we have Pluto in the 12th house and a trine aspect to our fourth house. These are the occult houses. Like, these are the things that we don't really talk about. It may be some taboo things. It may be things that just have come up from our subconscious mind about ourselves that we want to talk about and learn more about. Having Jupiter, which has been moving through the fourth house for the last year, can show that there's a lot of things, a lot of expansion and growth around our fourth house, around our family, that have been coming to light. And when Jupiter moves into the fifth house in Cancer, it can show maybe we're the family's growing, maybe we're having children, maybe we decide to embark on grand creative endeavors that's going to transform our lives. We have the North Node moving through our first house, so it's going to be a great expansion, great satiation that can be achieved through moving towards these things. But we cannot forget about our relationships and our connections in this case. This is the opportunity to notice what's important in regards to our family and how we need to be connected to our family to make sure that we can truly express ourselves creatively. Having Saturn moving through the second house of skills, talents, and abilities can show it's time to ground down into what we need to do for ourselves, because time never stops. Time's not going to wait. Saturn, as the time lord moving through Aries, is giving us the opportunity to see these things for ourselves, our own morbidity, possibly. It's time to take action. Having that Saturn in the second house, and when we do want to talk about Mars ruling over that second house of Aries, it's in our sixth house of day-to-day work. It's the efforts we put in. It's how we choose to be of service. So take all these things into consideration when it comes to having this new beginning here in this our fourth house in Gemini. It's like a place of solitude where we're gathering all things together and understanding clearly how we want to be creative. And you can see how all these different omens are connecting with one another and playing their part. That Saturn in the second house, grounding us down in our abilities, our skills, and talents, being ruled by Mars, our day-to-day efforts towards these things, connecting with our families, and not to mention that Jupiter, which is our ruler, getting ready to move into its exaltation place in the fifth house, which is going to rule our 10th house. So many different things to come for your Pisces rising. Notice how this new moon is planting those seeds for you. And that brings our intuitive new moon in Gemini to a close. If you want to book a reading with me, you can find me at aligned-astrology.com. Please subscribe. Please like the video if you like the video, and leave a comment. If you have any questions about anything, leave that. I'm happy to see you soon. This is Aligned Astrology. Until the next time.